question now my understanding of the facts surrounding the MJ case that he went to war with Sony, one of these major companies, and he was winning that war. And then suddenly the world was told that Michael Jackson is a somebody is an anti-Semite. Michael Jackson, I think, was called all of those things. Wacko Jacko. They gave him a name.
How do you feel when they call you
Wacko Jacko? It's not nice. I'm not a wacko.
I believe that they gave me a raw deal because this industry is a monster. It's the same monster that these Me Too was trying to tell you about. But they hate the monster for how it and I hate that monster for how it eats. But my God, man, it's the same monster.
The media, man, it is one hell of an entity. It really can have you thinking that the bad people are good and the good people are bad.
We're listening to Mike right now. Obviously, you know, this is a really sad time right now, but we're celebrating his life. Your thoughts right now on the situation and the timing of this tragedy?
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's just somebody that changed my life. You know what I'm saying? Somebody I'll always love and cherish.
I believe.
I don't know if I should tell you this, but I don't know. Maybe there may be a group of people that want to get rid of me. They don't want me here anymore.
I don't understand it. What do you mean?
I can't talk about it over the phone. I don't know what's going to happen.
The media, man, it
Throughout
is...
the years, black artists have been taken advantage of.
Right. Yeah.
And it's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible injustice.
You're not supposed to do this in my business. I'm up here doing something that nobody else in this business has the balls to do. I'm telling you something that you need to know.
Michael Jackson didn't just croon about injustice, he pointed fingers. He called out record executives as devilish and said black artists were getting drained dry so a handful of suits could stay rich. And almost overnight, the narrative flipped. The press took a global legend and rebranded him Wacko Jacko. Oprah started dissecting his image, and figures like Diddy appeared emotional on camera while quietly building empires in rooms former staff later described like something out of a nightmare. Dave Chappelle calls it the monster, a machine that devours people, then blames them for being eaten. So what if Michael wasn't torn down for being eccentric, but for understanding exactly how that monster operated and saying it publicly? His clash didn't begin with scandal, it began with money.
Black artists have been taken advantage of.
Right. Yeah.
And it's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible injustice. And like Mrs. Sharpton was saying, people from James Brown to Sammy Davis Jr., some of the real pioneers that inspired me to be the entertainer that I am. These artists are always on tour because if they stopped touring, they would totally go broken. And it's been, the record companies really do conspire against their artists. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially the black artists.
Yeah.
Yes, and Sony, Tommy Mottola. Tommy Mottola is the president of the record division. He is a meme, he's a racist, and he's very devilish. Yes. So I need your support, not just for me. When you fight for me, you're fighting for all black
On that London stage, he's not rambling, he's laying out a case. He says black artists pour their souls into music, then executives like Tommy Mottola sit comfortably collecting the real checks. He accuses Sony and major labels of sabotaging their own stars, locking up catalogs, discarding legends once every dollar's squeezed out. That's not confusion talking. That's someone who studied his contracts line by line and realized the hustle.
There have been many disgusting statements made recently concerning allegations of improper conduct on my part. These statements about me are totally false, as I have maintained from the very beginning I am hoping for a speedy end to this horrifying experience to which I have been subjected. I shall not in this statement respond to all of the false allegations being made against me, since my lawyers have advised me that this is not the proper forum in which to do that. I will say that I am particularly upset by the handling of this mass matter by the incredible, terrible mass media. At every opportunity, the media has dissected and manipulated these allegations to reach their own conclusions. I ask all of you to wait and hear the truth before you label or condemn me. Don't treat me like a criminal, because I am innocent. I have been forced to submit to a dehumanizing and humiliating examination by the Santa Barbara County Sheriff Department and the Los Angeles Police Department earlier this week. They served a search warrant on me which allowed them to view and photograph my body, including my penis, my buttocks, my lower torso, thighs, and any other area that they wanted. They were supposedly looking for any discoloration, spotting, blotches, or other evidence of a skin color disorder called vitiligo, which I have previously spoken about. The warrant also directed me to cooperate in any examination of my body by their physician to determine the condition of my skin, including whether I have vitiligo or any other skin disorder. The warrant further stated that I had no right to refuse the examination or photographs, and if I failed to cooperate with them, they would introduce that refusal at any trial as an indication of my guilt. It was the most humiliating ordeal of my life, one that no person should ever have to suffer. And even after experiencing the indignity of this search, the parties involved were still not satisfied and wanted to take even more pictures. It was a nightmare, a horrifying nightmare. But if this is what I have to endure to prove my innocence, my complete innocence, so be it.
And when he finally addresses the darkest accusations, listen carefully. Raids, public humiliation, strip searches, his home torn apart. He describes being treated like an animal before any jury heard evidence. To him, those claims weren't just lies, they were retaliation. That's the detail people overlook. The stories didn't surface randomly. They detonated right after he publicly challenged powerful executives, right after he threatened what they value most, control over artists and their catalogs.
You can imagine now my understanding of the facts surrounding the MJ case, that he went to war with Sony, one of these major companies, and he was winning that war. And then suddenly the world was told that Michael Jackson is a somebody is an anti-Semite. Michael Jackson, I think, was called all of those things. Wacko Jacko, they gave him a name.
How do you feel when they call you
Wacko Jacko? It's not nice. I'm not a wacko.
The exact same tactics that they tried to use on me. Someone pressed a button and there was a full court press effort to cancel Candace Owens by trying to convince the people that she just went crazy and anti-Semitic. Thank goodness I'm not from Hollywood. They would have institutionalized me and said that it was for my good. There are a ton of people in Hollywood who, when they have tried to speak out about things that are happening to them, have received this same treatment. I believe this is what happened to Britney Spears.
Even Candace Owens, who once believed he was guilty, now admits the timing feels orchestrated. She points out how the allegations escalated just as he was winning against Sony, and says she's experienced a similar cancellation machine herself. So before Oprah or Diddy even enter the picture, remember this: Michael didn't just have fame, he had leverage. He knew the business inside out. The second he exposed it, everything around him shifted.
In 1993, the very first allegation came against him, made from a screenwriter in the industry. He's both a screenwriter and a dentist named Dr. Evan Chandler. He was based in Los Angeles, and his accusation was that Jackson had his 13-year-old son, Jordan. Horrific. Now, how this came about was that Jordan told his psychiatrist that Jackson had him, and then the LAPD began a criminal investigation But the investigation actually found no physical evidence against Jackson, and it was closed. The case was closed less than 1 year later. Now, that should have stopped the media from reporting on it. Michael Jackson wasn't guilty, but we know the media has never let facts get in the way of them having a good time. They broke the allegations worldwide, which led Michael Jackson to cancel the second leg of his Dangerous World Tour in August of that same year. And he cited health issues, health problems that were stemming from the stress of the entire scandal. And do you want to know what actually added to the stress? This is actually horrific. His sister, LaToya Jackson, came right out and she said, yup, Michael Jackson is a But then something weird happened. She didn't provide any evidence. She didn't even attach that statement to a story. And when people prodded her about that, why did you say your brother is a She admitted that it was her husband who had forced her to make that statement.
The first real strike wasn't a think piece or a viral thread. It was 1993. One family, one explosive story capable of wiping out his legacy with a headline. A custody fight, a sudden shift in a child's account, and a media cycle that crowned a villain before trial even began. By the time the public heard the details, their verdict felt pre-written.
Dr. Evan Chandler did, in fact, drug his child into making the allegation about Michael Jackson. I'm going to read you directly from an article about what Dr. Evan Chandler did. It reads, on August 2nd, 1993, dentist Dr. Evan Chandler was extracting a tooth from his own son, Jordan, when he did something unusual. Under the supervision of an attending anesthesiologist, Dr. Chandler injected his son with a dose of sodium amytal, a barbiturate. Although in pop culture it has sometimes incorrectly been called a truth serum. It is not normal to use sodium amytal to pull a tooth. In fact, it is a psychological drug with sedative and hypnotic effects. Oh, totally normal situation to drug your child, to sedate him with a drug that produces hypnotic effects, and then to ask him, did Michael Jackson you, to which your drugged and sedated son says yes. That is the actual story about how this allegation came about. And once his son said yes and he recorded that, Evan Chandler then demanded $20 million privately from Michael Jackson. He didn't go to the cops. He went to a lawyer. He said, I won't make this public if you give me $20 million. If you don't give me $20 million, I'm going to make it public. And Michael Jackson told him to kick rocks, allegedly. And then he had his lawyer go back and say, okay, what about if it's just $1 million? And by the way, at this point, it says that his lawyer was like, hey, man, but if your son was maybe go to the cops, right? Don't just have me negotiating with the king of pop. You should go to the cops. And he's like, you just keep negotiating. Unbelievably. And during this time, he took his son to a psychiatrist. We love psychiatrists on this show. And he made his son describe graphic details of what Jackson had done to him, but didn't do to any of the other boys who were also present for the sleepovers. Jordan's mother at this point, June Schwartz, she and her new husband thought, I think maybe he could be telling some lies. My ex-husband, maybe he's not that honest of a person. And so Jordan's stepdad, a man named Dave Schwartz, decided to confront Dr. Evan Chandler. And not just to confront him, but to record him speaking about what he was going to do to Michael Jackson and co. Take a listen to Dr. Evan Chandler, the dentist, in his own words.
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. And I will not believe it. He will not believe this can happen. And it's beyond worst nightmares. That's got one more record.
This attorney I found, I interviewed several, and I picked the nastiest son of a I can find. Once I make that phone call, this guy's just going to...
Years later, details surfaced quietly, the kind that rarely make front pages. That same father admitted to medicating his son before statements were given. There were claims of pressure and promises around a child who may not have grasped the weight of his words. It started to look less like justice and more like adults crafting a story they knew would stick for life. Now compare that with Michael's own account. Warrants, invasive searches, strangers dismantling his home before guilt was proven. He didn't sound like a celebrity worried about optics. He sounded like someone realizing fame doesn't shield you once the script's written. To him, the accusations were a warning. Step out of line, pay the price. By the time it was over, the nickname, the jokes, the weird label had already cemented. Those came from framing, repetition, amplification. One family's story, boosted by powerful voices, became the blueprint for decades.
There was a story, and I know one of your attorneys held a news conference. There was a story about you wanting to have a little white boy play you in a Pepsi commercial.
That is so stupid. That's the most ridiculous, horrifying story I've ever heard. It's crazy. I mean, why? Number one, it's my face as a child in the commercial. Me when I was little. Why would I want a white child to play me? I'm a black American. I'm proud to be a black American. I am proud of my race. I am proud of who I am. I have a lot of pride in who I am and dignity. That's like you wanting an Oriental person to play you as a child. Does that make sense?
No.
So please, people, stop believing these
Michael,
horrifying
then
stories.
let's go to the thing that is most discussed about you, I think, is the fact that the color of your skin is obviously different than it was when you were younger.
Yes.
And so I think it has caused a great deal of speculation and controversy as to what you have done or are doing. Are you bleaching your skin? And is your skin lighter because you don't like being black?
Okay, number one, as I know of, there is no such thing as skin bleaching. I have never seen it. I don't know what it is.
Well, they used to have those products growing up. I used to hear, always use bleach and glow, but you'd have to have about 300,000 gallons.
Okay, number one, this is the situation. I have a skin disorder that destroys the pigmentation of the skin. It's something that I cannot help. Okay, but when people make up stories that I don't want to be who I am, it hurts me.
So it is.
It's a problem for me, okay? I can't control it, okay? But what about all the millions of people? Let's reverse it.
Okay.
What about all the millions of people who sit out in the sun to become darker, to become other than what they are? Nobody says nothing about that.
So when did this start? When did the color of your skin start to change?
Oh boy, sometime after Thriller. Around Off the Wall Thriller.
And what did you think? I mean,
it's in my family. My father said it's on his side. I can't control it. I don't understand. I mean, it makes me very sad. I don't want to go into my medical history because that's something that's private, but that's the situation here. So please, when people see something like that.
I just want to get this straight.
Yeah.
You are not taking anything to change the color of your skin.
Oh God, no.
You did not purposely.
We're trying to control it, and using makeup evens it out because it makes blotches on the skin, and I have to even out my skin. But you know what's funny? Why is that?
After the first wave, it wasn't just courts, it was television. Oprah didn't present him as the greatest entertainer alive. She positioned him like a defendant before a global audience, letting viewers play jury at home. The focus shifted from music and legacy to whether people should even support him.
Moment transcends Michael Jackson. It is much bigger than any one person.
Oprah Winfrey opened up about her decision to speak to Michael Jackson's accusers for her After Neverland special when she stopped by The Daily Show on Wednesday night. Last month, Winfrey made headlines when she sat down with Michael Jackson accusers for Oprah Winfrey Presents After Neverland, which aired on HBO following the explosive documentary about the singer titled Leaving Neverland.
If they ever found out what we were doing, he and I would go to jail.
Winfrey said of her decision to do the special, "I haven't had that much hateration since I did the puppy episode with Ellen DeGeneres, aka the episode in which DeGeneres came out as gay." The talk show host continued, "But when I saw that documentary, I realized that a lot of people are going to be triggered by watching it, and a lot of people will not understand what the pattern is." Winfrey explained, "People call it but there is a big..."
Years later, instead of recalibrating, she doubled down with Leaving Neverland. She sat across from the accusers and treated every word as unquestioned truth. When inconsistencies surfaced and financial motives were discussed, there was no primetime correction, no public reconsideration. The cloud over Michael remained deliberately.
Is watching all the newses and reading all the newspapers, and she said, "Something's happened to Michael. I don't think it's good." And it scared me because in 1998, I think that was the year, I was in another hotel room Gail was and Gail called and said, something's happened to Princess Diana. I don't think it's good. So when I heard that, immediately I thought, oh my God, could it be? And so we were all stunned. And
did you ever consider going to either the memorial service or the funeral?
No, I did not consider going to the memorial service or the funeral because I did not consider myself to be a friend of his. And I didn't want to be one of those people showing up just because it's Michael Jackson. So no, I didn't, because I was not a friend. I was someone who had interviewed him and at the time really had a lot of compassion for him. And
those feelings about him changed over the years?
The feelings didn't change. In terms of my sense of compassion for him, what I felt was a sense of sadness. I never knew, what the truth was.
And when Michael passed, Oprah was away. Soon after, she began distancing herself, implying they were never truly close and that her feelings had shifted. For someone who once built one of television's biggest interviews around him, that pivot speaks volumes. Publicly benefit from the icon, then quietly detach from the controversy. The media, man, it is one hell of an entity. It really can have you thinking that the bad people are good and the good people are bad. Insiders and comedians have echoed this for years. That's how the machine works. It can celebrate you worldwide one day and rewrite you the next, depending on what suits the storyline. With Michael, the interviews and documentaries weren't neutral discussions. They felt like a gradual transformation from legend to caricature.
We're listening to Mike right now. Obviously, this is a really sad time right now, but we're celebrating his life. Your thoughts right now on the situation and the timing of this tragedy?
Yeah, I mean, he's just somebody that changed my life. You know what I'm saying? Somebody I'll always love.
On camera, Diddy sounds like a superfan, praising Michael, saying he cherishes him. But listen closely. It's more than admiration, it's measured. When someone that powerful speaks softly about another figure, it often hints at awareness that the person in question saw more than the public ever will.
Celebrity-driven parties. I happened to come in at a time where he was throwing his 50th birthday party, and they spent millions of dollars building this outside structure in his backyard in Los Angeles. I couldn't believe, wow, I'm a part of this now. It was so, again, exquisite. It was just huge.
But the gloss quickly wore off as his tasks became more sinister. Phil was not only ordered to source a constant supply of drugs for Diddy, he was then forced to carry them around the country.
So we had a laundry list of items that needed to be with us at all times. We'd have their marijuana joints on us. We would have the mushrooms on us. We had a kind of a Diddy pack is what they would call it. And we would keep a satchel on us, and that's what we would have in that satchel.
Always on call, Phil witnessed many things he now wishes he hadn't. He says he worked on the periphery of Diddy's now infamous parties known as freak-offs, although he knew them by another name.
They were referred to me as Wild King Nights. And what a Wild King Night was when him and a guest would go to a hotel room or be at his home, his bedroom, and they would have intimate gatherings. I would have to go and prep that hotel room, which consisted of baby oil Astroglide, candles, incense, liquor, lights, tons of toiletries, drugs.
Phil wasn't in the room for the parties, but he didn't have to be. He knew exactly what went on behind closed doors because one of his jobs was deleting the very incriminating videos of the Wild King Nights from his boss's iPhones and iPads.
I thought he was this clean businessman who rise to the top because he was such a powerful and smart, educated man. I had no idea that he had this other side to him. And when I started to get exposed to his lifestyle, I started to really realize, this guy has an addiction. It's not just, once every few weeks.
Behind closed doors, Diddy's own assistant described a very different atmosphere. Rooms prepared, people rotated, strict off-the-record rules. The kind of environment where secrets are born and influence is managed. Now imagine Michael navigating those same elite circles, observing how the real game functions.
Because they have been linked together so often. First off, Oprah and Harvey have been friends for over 2 decades. A lot of people use the argument that she didn't know about what he was doing, but that's impossible because everyone's known about Harvey Weinstein's reputation ever since the 90s. If you guys don't know who Harvey Weinstein is, he is a major film producer who is pretty much the face of the Me Too movement because he was called out by a bunch of different actresses who he violated. When he was getting canceled and exposed for everything that he has done, Oprah allegedly called him and offered her support. Even though Oprah's team denies this, I believe it because Oprah has been close with Harvey and she has showed him some sympathy over time. Even though he is a disgusting man and he deserves to rot in jail. But I don't understand why Oprah wants to be best friends with someone like Harvey Weinstein. They had a very warm friendship, and the photos show. Some people actually believe that Oprah convinced some actresses to hook up with Harvey Weinstein. And actually, Rose McGowan tweeted out, "I'm glad more people are seeing the ugly truth of
Dave Chappelle calls it a monster, not for drama, but description. An industry that builds stars, then consumes them once they resist. Michael wasn't just another artist. He had money, ownership, visibility, enough to name the monster directly. That kind of position makes you threatening in ways scandal alone can't. Then there's his alleged final call, where he hints at a group wanting him gone. No wild confusion in his voice, just someone piecing together power structures. When a figure that informed starts talking, it rattles people. Line up the cautious praise, the shadowy environments, the powerful friendships, and Michael's warnings, and a pattern forms. Maybe the fear wasn't just his influence. Maybe it was what he knew.
Raw deal because this industry is a monster. It's the same monster that these Me Too was trying to tell you about. But they hate the monster for how it and I hate that monster for how it eats. But my God, man, it's the same.
When the first storm settled, you'd expect closure. Instead, years later, accusations resurfaced after Dr. Evan Chandler had passed and couldn't respond. No groundbreaking evidence, just louder headlines, recycled claims. It felt less like discovery and more like replaying the same script to ensure Michael could never fully rehabilitate his image. That's how the Wacko Jacko era stuck. Late-night monologues, tabloid covers, dramatic panels, all reinforcing a cartoon version. Once that caricature locks in, proof almost becomes irrelevant. His name alone triggers the narrative people have absorbed for decades.
The person who started this initial allegation, he's no longer with us because he was he committed in November of 2009, just 5 months after Michael Jackson was overdosed. Yeah, Evan Chandler shot himself in the head. There were absolutely no witnesses. There was no note, and he was found by his building concierge. That's just a fun little update for you. But back to Michael Jackson, because even though, like I said, that never went through, they dropped this case in less than a year. The media kind of saw that there was this squeeze on Michael Jackson, but then they let it go. There were no more allegations against Michael Jackson until almost 10 years later, when suddenly there was an explosion of allegations against Michael Jackson. And I want you to remember that year, 2003, is when it began. It began when a boy named Gavin Arvizo accused Michael Jackson of child saying that he was under 14 at the time of the alleged crime. The singer was then charged because of this allegation with 7 counts of child sexual abuse and 2 counts of administering an intoxicating agent. What does the public actually remember from that time? What do you remember from that time? Well, we remember that Michael Jackson was Wacko Jacko, that he was crazy, that he was addicted to drugs, whatever his doctor was injecting him with. Here are just some of the headlines: Wacko Jacko, Backo Jacko, raid, wacko, jacko, jacko on the attacko. I mean, this is like seared into my memory. I'm sure it's seared into your memory as well. This is what I remember. And I also remember that he was anti-Semitic. Yeah, there were headlines calling him an anti-Semite, saying that he hated Jews. And by the way, they had evidence because, so weird, but his doctor who overdosed him also recorded Michael Jackson while he was also clearly sounding like he was high on drugs. Maybe his doctor gave him drugs and then spoke to him. And somehow this recording this conversation between him and the doctor.
Dave Chappelle has described this move clearly. The moment a black entertainer stops cooperating, labels appear. Unstable, erratic, off. They did it to Dave when he walked away from his deal and to Michael when he exposed industry practices. Once that tag sticks, no further evidence is required. Just point and say, "See?" Dave explained how leaving a massive contract sparked rumors about his sanity instead of questions about the deal itself. Same blueprint. Challenge the machine and it questions your mind. Back in 2007, Oprah launched a boarding school in South Africa, inspired by Nelson Mandela and a promise she made to him.
You're not supposed to do this in my business. I'm up here doing something that nobody else in this business has the balls to do. I'm telling you something that you need to know. I'm trying to explain to you what you're seeing. You don't understand what you're seeing. I am publicly flogging a network. And I know that this network, they watching me and they saying, why are you doing this so publicly? Doesn't feel good to be flogged publicly. Oh, believe me, I know exactly how that feels. When I quit my show, they said I was crazy. What was crazy about it? I just didn't want to do it anymore. And everybody calls me crazy. You know, I mean, it was just...
You're hearing on the news things like he's gone crazy, which that didn't sound right, you know? And
well, you know, maybe I know stuff people don't want me to talk about. So
right.
we're going to what other people believe. So they'll call me crazy. Mm-hmm. But it was a weird thing to get called crazy. At first it was scary. And then now I feel like it's liberating. Like, I feel free, like I can just say what I want to do. They already call me crazy. I can't hold myself accountable for these things. I'm crazy. I can't be held responsible. Yeah. Couldn't control myself.
Yeah. What was the reason that you went to Africa? Was there a reason that you decided to go to Africa?
Well, there are a few reasons, but I mean, you know, if you a black dude trying to hide, Africa is a good.
Oprah Winfrey thought it would be a good idea to open up a boarding school in South Africa. She was inspired by Nelson Mandela and made a promise to him that she was going to create this school. The academy is called Leadership Academy for Girls. Actually, the government of South Africa was against Oprah opening this school because it's an extremely expensive place and the population there is extremely poor. But yet she opens this school and it's got salons in it, it's got gyms in it. I mean, some people think that this was a place for kids to be human trafficked because they would go and get them ready there for sale. And honestly, we don't need to talk about that conspiracy, but we need to talk about the scandals that have gone down at this school.
These are my girls. These are my girls.
Oprah, look up, man.
So Oprah built this $40 million school in South Africa, and they had 152 students attend. Oprah actually handpicked the 152 students who attended her school, but it wasn't long until some of these students were being harmed by one of the employees of the school. Her name is Virginia, and she was 27 years old at the time, and she was charged with 13 counts of getting inappropriate with the kids. Virginia got physical with at least 6 students aged 13 to 15. So these students were handpicked by Oprah to go and live at this academy, and one of these employees who is managing the dorm is physically touching them and doing things to them and harming them. This was a bad look for South Africa because they have had a problem with children being harmed at school by these employees. But ultimately, Oprah put them in this situation to be harmed by this employee.
Then look at what was happening in Oprah's own backyard. At her leadership academy in South Africa, an employee was accused of being inappropriate with multiple young girls, and the investigation became a global story. The same media that crucified Michael on rumors suddenly got very gentle, framing it as a tragedy for the school and the country, instead of a character stain on Oprah. Nobody started calling her a monster or giving her a sick nickname for years.
That wasn't the only scandal that came out of Oprah's school, because ever since it's been open, there's been scandal after scandal. Less than 2 years later, there was another incident where some students were getting physical with each other, and there was a 15-year-old who urged to these victims to keep everything on the down low and not to tell their parents or investigators what happened. So 7 students were suspended from the school, and these girls were alleged to have been intimidating others into partaking in inappropriate behaviors. A letter sent to one of the suspended girls' parents reportedly read, "You have been found guilty of physical contact of a intimate nature with another person on campus, bullying of other girls on campus, and of being dishonest by not telling investigators the whole truth." So I don't understand why Oprah just went to this school like less than a year ago to fix things, yet this is still going on.
But
I mean, how does this 15-year-old get away with preying on their schoolmates and coercing them into
campus? Even a newborn's death discovered there. Yet coverage framed Oprah as a concerned mentor facing challenges, not as someone presiding over a dangerous environment. Compare that to how whispers around Michael were amplified. When Dave spoke about fleeing to Africa because he felt people were trying to medicate and isolate him, he wasn't just telling a personal story, he was describing a pattern. He said it plainly: when you see too much and stop cooperating, they brand you unstable. Connect that back to Michael and it clicks. One man speaks about money and power and becomes a punchline. Another remains centered in controversy around vulnerable youth and receives gentler framing. When you notice how quickly crazy gets weaponized against outspoken figures and how carefully others are shielded, the double standard around Michael stops feeling accidental. It starts to look strategic. So now you've seen the timeline, the patterns, and the pivot. If all of this could happen to the most famous entertainer on earth, what does that say about the power behind the narrative? And if labels like crazy, dangerous, monster were tools to silence him, how many other artists today are being judged by a script that was never accurate to begin with? If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit subscribe so you never miss what's next. And until next time, stay sharp and stay questioning.